screen. And I was working for a company called Ranorex. They are focused on UI testing, blah, 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 blah. And then I started to realize I should start my own company. So it's called Xenial. So it's really a group of stuff that's pulled together. It's called Xenial. It's like being hostile to other people. So it's easy, flexible, focused. So you can pick and choose whatever you want. And then I realized that testing is really, really, really hard in .NET. So I came from a .NET background, going to JavaScript land with like Electron and doing all kind of crazy stuff cross-platform. And there is a stuff a thing that Facebook built. It's called Jest, and I have no idea if you can see that over my screen here. Can I move that? I can. It's called Jest. It's a testing platform. It's doing all kind of crazy stuff with tests in general. And I was thinking, okay, we have X unit and N unit, and we saw that kind of stuff, and then I started looking around, and then it was like N unit is like 20 years old. This is a J unit port, and it's like 25-year old. And then there's MS test, and it's like bulky, and there's all the kind of stuff you have to bring with you, and you have to run Visual Studio with it, and blah, 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 blah. And then would come X unit, and X unit is like the same thing, but it's 10 years old. Or it's almost 15 years old. And I learned a lot in space of functional programming and functional testing style and all that. And the main goal of Jest is like delightful JavaScript testing. It's like focus you on testing in every way you want, but you don't have to think about testing in the first place. And then I said, okay, it shouldn't be delightful, it should be delicious. And that's the thing why tasty and delicious.NET testing is going along. And there's our little buddy here. It's a crepe. I wanted to have a palatschinken because it's called in Austria, but I can't get a graphical designer to design me one. So I got with a free one, and there are some links to the bottom. So tasty. It is highly inspired by Jest. It's functional. It's fluent. It's a pluggable. You can do all kinds of stuff. It's like snapshots. It's embeddable. It's just kind of a library you can plug into. That sounds like, what does that all mean? The thing is, like with X unit, for example, you have to run it through a runner, or you have to do all kinds of crazy stuff to get your tests running as you want to run them. And that's not the thing with Tasty. You can do all kinds of stuff. It's a C# has get a lot of more advanced language projections and all kind of stuff you can do with the language. With NuGet now, with the new MS Build project format, with .NET Core and .NET 5. But it's not limited to all that new stuff. You can use that in the older, like XAF, file new project, WinForms kind of stuff. But it's optimized for the new world of .NET 5, where everything is uniform. And yeah, and you have all that kind of approval tests, nCrunch, live unit testing that costs thousands of dollars. And you have all that small applications you try to run and interact with, and it's all that it's not you're blowing like 500 megabytes of application and then you run it. It's like more smaller and smaller application parts, and just launch them on their own. So that's a huge goal and a perspective how we can build something of testing and getting more confidence in our code and blah blah blah. But the main problem is like it doesn't get low complex. The complexity increases. So we have to be very descriptive how things interact with each other, and when we do some kind of performance tests and stuff like this. But on the other hand, we like to throw some keyboard strokes in, and we want to know if everything works. And XUnit is not high in ceremony, but you have to go and type the .NET new or file new project XUnit, and then you have to place all fact attributes over your code, and you have all this kind of stuff we've seen before or with NUnit. And the last one is like the problem is like those are like silos. So NUnit is like, okay, they support some kind of tests, but not all of them. And then you go into CI/CD and do some kind of testing and have this test hierarchy you want to test with performance goals and all that kind of stuff. And you don't have, you have to grab together all the kind of stuff, grab some test results from there and test results from there, and then get all that stuff back in. So I hope you're still with me. The really large goals is like you define the tests and really be an executable platform to do all kinds of testing. Unit to UI testing, easy test, no idea, whatever you want to throw at that stuff. But the main goal is like be process isolated, so they can't interfere with each other. So like it's like a microprocess architecture or microkernel. The next goals, they're all the way around. There's a little bit technical. All async all the way down. Data-driven tests are natural. No test discovery. Blah blah blah. So there's no reflection costs to do test discovery, and really go back absolutely to the basics. So write a console application and you write tests. Code coverage and all the other stuff is like future goals, but okay. So that's tasty. It's lovely. So
will you show us some code?
Yeah, let's get to it. Let's get to see it in action.
So I have to minimize you guys. So how many time do we have left? It's like 25 minutes.
Yeah, we are already out of the time, so take the time that you need. So we're gonna post it on YouTube later on.
I am in a empty directory, so I am a code guy, so I don't spend any time of the day in Visual Studio or designers. I am just going to go and do a .NET new console live application, and it's just it's just a normal .NET application. And if I go for tasty demo, it's just a normal. In this case, it's a .NET 5 application, but it doesn't matter, and it's just a console write line. So it's nothing really special about it. So I'm going to add a package. It's called Xenial Tasty, and that's the main package to write our first test. And I am going to add a reporter to that project that is just going to output something back to us. You don't have to do that in the future, but for now we don't really know which is the best kind of way to what's the best reporter or combination of stuff to get you started. So that's basically everything I have to do. And okay, I'm just starting Visual Studio Code, and in this directory. And can you is this large enough for everyone to read, or should I
can see it. I can see it fine.
Okay, so and the only thing you have to do is to include a static using into the project. So it's using static xenial.tasty, and that will bring all the guts we need to know into our namespace. There's another thing we should do, but we don't need to do. It's like we need to because everything is async. We need to change our signature from public static void into public async task of int of main. So that's basically helping the compiler to do some stuff. So what is this static Xenial Tasty doing? We have now with C#, I think 6 or 7, we can do a static import of a static class, and everything inside the tasty class that's static, I can also say using static system math, for example, not Marshall, so math. Every function that's inside of math is now in our namespace. So it's like square root. And we do the same thing with system.math or with Xenial Tasty. So it's nothing special here. It's just helping the compiler to know about Tasty. So we can write, for example, xenial.tasty.it, but because we referenced it back up here, we can just omit it and call it it. And it's just a function call, and it takes a name and it gets an action. So we can call that Tasty is awesome. So let's do that. Tasty is awesome. So now, of course, it doesn't allow us to just do that like this, because it wants to have an action as a second parameter. And I have no idea how good you are with lambda expressions or with all kind of functional stuff. But the thing is, it takes an action, and an action is nothing more than a function that takes no arguments and returns no arguments. So it's basically the same thing as saying public, or doesn't have to be public. It can be void, void foo. Yeah, that's basically the same thing. So it's a void function that takes no arguments, and I can write foo here, but let's keep it simply clean. I have no idea if people know what actions are or not. And that's basically the first tasty test we wrote. But as you clearly can see, there's the main function, and it wants. And sorry about the German error messages, but basically it's telling us with an async function that wants to return a task, but it doesn't. So there's another function in Tasty, which basically is the run function, and it takes just the arguments and returns an integer as a task. So basically that's it. So that's our first delicious tasty test.
I have like one small question. Maybe you can show how you assert the test.
We are going to asserting tests. So, but let's run the test and let's see what's going on. Demo gods, help we? Hey, we are the taste is awesome.
Nice.
So that's basically everything that's going on. The thing is, there's a lot going on under the hood, but you can see, hey, there's a reporter with some thumbs up there, and we have some timelines, and I have to minimize all that. Okay, I just move it down. So if like it's like 122 or no, not almost 100 milliseconds of tests, and the thing is like this is the thing with the reporters. So we have reporters that get thrown into that thing, but normally you only have to write code against Tasty, and that's just the executable thing. But I am going into that in a quarter of a second. The thing is like we return here the error code, and that's really it's a good thing to have that kind of mechanism, because if you're doing like CI/CD systems, normally processes are telling each other if they fail, if they do return a non-zero exit code. So on Windows, it's called there's a environment variable that's called error level that just returns the last error a variable that's got returned from the last program. So for example, if I say return, let's just comment it out and say return await task from result -1, and then do that same thing again, and that there's no output because I'd never taught Tasty. So there is some mechanism we can provide between processes. So it's not nothing too fancy, but if you're new to CI/CD, that is really yeah, blowing your mind sometimes. So okay, let's go with a really simple demo, because I am so a great programmer. I'm starting with the most basic demo I ever can think about. It's just a calculator, and it's a calculator, and have an add method, and it's got an X and a Y, and it's going to adding X and Y. So let's look at a basic Tasty test. So Tasty is still awesome, but we will replace it with a much more awesome test case. And now you can see it is an arbitrary string. So the name of the test is just a string. And there we have a function that gets called when we invoke the test. But as you can clearly see, we instantiate a new calculator, and then we add 1 and 2, and now we are on the assertions. Yeah, now what? And as always, we can run that again. And what will happen? Nothing, because it doesn't fail. Of course, it doesn't fail because we didn't do anything with the result. So let's talk about assertions. Tasty doesn't come with any assertion library at all, and that is by design. There will maybe in the future, but I'm not 100% sure if we will or not. But Tasty is not some kind of small library thingy that and you have to all kind of do all the kind of shit. If you look at Tasty, you have like, for now it's like 6 overloads, but you can go into the thousands of overloads, because this is just a function or a functor, if you call it for in any functional program way. And because the C# compiler is really, really smart, we can just return a Boolean instead. So beforehand, we had an action of T, and now we return a func of bool. So we are inserting a func that should return a bool. Everybody with me so far?
So far, so good.
So if I run that again, nothing should change. But what happens if we change our implementation? So we are clearly making an error, because we have really, really good math skills. So you can clearly see that we don't hit any, we didn't return true from our test. So that's crucial for Tasty. To be honest, I am not 100% sure if this will work, but let's try to debug this, because that's a normal .NET program. There's nothing special about Tasty at all. Can we hit a breakpoint? I'm not 100% sure. Demo gods don't want to.
Demo
there they are. So we have a calculator. We have a system under test. So it's a calculator. We add 1 and 2. We get a result from run, and we return 3, and it clearly it fails. So there's nothing special about a Tasty program. It's just a normal .NET project. Besides, for now, it's being .NET Framework 5, but that's nothing special. So basically, okay, you're telling me, okay, good, you can do all kind of stuff, but the thing is like, what does this help? 1 plus 2 equals 3. Nothing. So, okay, I am not sure if everybody on the is clear with the new things that are coming with .NET. So I am going a little bit functional. So there's this concept called tuples, and it's in .NET for since .NET 3, I guess, or 3.5. And a tuple is basically provide static methods for creating a tuple object. What's a tuple object? A tuple object is a generic type that can hold multiple values. And what does this look like? It's like a tuple, and it's so on item 1, and it's calling bool out here, the first parameter, and there's the item 2, and it's a string. It's the second parameter. If I can add another one, it's like 1. There's item 3, and it's like an int. Okay, so everybody with me so far? A tuple is just like an object, but it's an object with parameters in a row. It's like an array where the first thing and the second thing and the first thing, but you know what it is. But the problem is tuple is a class. So tuple is system static class tuple, and then they decided, hey, it's really, really shitty to have a class. So they created a value tuple, and a value tuple is a struct. And what you can immediately see is that the compiler picks up the tuple class and say, okay, you have the first value is a Boolean, the second is a string, and the third one is an int. So, and you can see the brackets. And a value tuple is a struct. So it does all kind of really, really crazy stuff with comparison and all the kind of stuff, but it doesn't does anything on the heap. It is just going it's really, really memory efficient to create a value tuple. So, and in C#6, I think I've called it somewhere here, but I'm not sure. Guys, C#6, you can create a value tuple by just doing this kind of construct where you just do it in braces. And you can see it's the same thing with a bool string and an int. And I built this into Xenial or into Tasty to provide more value to this and more precise answers. So if you have, for example, a result equals 3, I also can provide you poop at midnight. Of course, that's not the nicest thing to say to anybody. But okay, you pooped at midnight. But that's not the thing. It doesn't help us either. So we can provide more value by using the new interpolated string features that C# has. So an interpolated string is basically the same thing as saying string dot format foo 0 comma blah, and oh yeah, and it said foo dot blah. But with an interpolated string, we can, for example, say something like this, where you can say, okay, $sign, it's an interpolated string, 1 + 2 should be 3, but was result. So, okay, it is a little bit verbose, but better than getting nothing. So I think that's a great way to get into really, really hard business problems, and you can do all kind of stuff. Yeah, so just return a tuple with the Boolean value that says if the test will fail or not.
Manuel, one question: do you have any SAF examples with Tasty?
I will. I get into that. So I will get into that later. But just fix the calculator for now. I don't have a demo on getting testing XCF applications, but I will get into the really main goal of Tasty. That's called it can run everywhere. So basically, we have done a basic test. You can do that with X unit, with any unit. There's nothing special except the case that you can return tuples. You can there are some mentions or stuff like this, but let's keep it simple for now. Okay, so let's get back to that. But the main thing is like, okay, we have a single test, so 1 plus 3. Okay, let's dive into more grouping details or how to group our tests. So we can basically do, there's a function. It is just a function. It's coming from Tasty, Xamarin Tasty, but we also can use a describe block, and a describe block, if I can copy and paste correctly, is a function that has another function, or as many function tree deep you like, and it describes a block of tests. So you can describe, and you can have a it and then another describe, and you can mix and match them as ever you want. And what this does is like it does a tree inspection of describe this calculator, because we have the name of operator that can be a string, and we have another nested thing that describes the add method. And Tasty will recognize this and try to put out a nice kind of representation of all of that. But that's rather, in this way, it's really clunky to read. It's like calculator add 1 plus 2 equals 3. It's not that bad, but it's all to be descriptive on your test. So we should rather do something like this. So we can again use the interpolated string function and say like calculator should add 1 plus 3 equals 2 equals 3. So it's much easier and better to read, at least I guess. So but that's how Tasty works into all that kind of stuff. So but that's nice and that's great. And how to do some data-driven tests, because there's XUnit with the theory attribute or the data or the inline theory attribute, and you saw the async task thing, and why is all the noise there? So let's do some data-driven tests. So with a simple add function, it's not that bad. So I'm just going to add a file here called calculator.add.txt. It's nothing special. It's a text file, and there's all the kind of stuff in there. And basically, it's a CSV file or a comma separated value file. That's just it's like a or x, y, and the result, and x, y, and the result is just all the way down. And of course, it's going to return 42. So okay, we have to do some assumptions to the add function or the describe block. So we have to do it async, and then we have to read the file, and let's do some system IO, and it's just reading that text file and selecting out with some link magic a new object a new blah blah blah, and to an anonymous object that's with like AB result. And because every call to the it function will produce a new test case, we can just do this. So we have like a for each over all tests, and all tests is like a B result thing. We can use it here. And if we run it, it's just doing data-driven tests. So
that is actually amazing, because there are so many articles that where people is talking about how you should name your test. Just like that, it's a huge discussion. Like, how do you know what this test will do? Just by reading the signature of the function.
yeah.
So in this case, you don't. I mean, you can use as much magic and show whatever it's doing there.
You are in control how this string is formatted. So I can say, yay, tasty, and I can run
I
again.
think you're missing one A.
Maybe, but okay, you get the point. At least if this is unique against the testing suite, and of course it needs to compile and all that stuff, but it's like it's instant. There is no lag about it. It needs to compile, because if I go to dir, it's just a normal. So I go to bin, cd bin, and then I go to debug, and then go not 5. I get it for dir star exe. Okay, tasty demo. Probably it's too fast, so it breaks my console. Okay, so this is a thing. So clear, dotnet run. It's like 200, 300, 500 tests. I have no idea. I didn't count it. It's such a total. But that's the thing. You can name it whatever you want. Those are arbitrary strings that are getting into a constructed tree, if you will, like. And remember, I'm still in VS Code. I never touched with Visual Studio so far. So, okay. Okay, we can do this kind of test in a much more functional way. So we can do that. No, we can't, because I missed a line. Better. So we can do some kind of local function that just do a return of A, B, and result. And that's, again, the tuple thing I was talking about earlier. But you can do that kind of stuff. And then the test even gets easier. So we have to do that all kind of test.A, test.B, but we can make the test even clearer. So just into a way to read and deconstruct our tuple. So we have the tuple here with A, B, and result, and we're just returning it here as an array, and we have A, B, and it's just a little bit easier to read. Not probably, you can do whatever you want. So it's basically the same thing. Nothing really changed. But if you look at that file, it's like 54 lines of code, and we have this calculator here, and okay, it's okay. So let's do a small refactoring. You don't do that anyway, because you don't have the test code and the production code in the same assembly. So just move that into our own file. So we have a calculatecs thing with a namespace. And now comes .NET 5 and C#9, and that's basically the same. The main thing I am thinking about why I think Tasty is really a useful tool. So I am running here .NET info. So I have all kind of stuff installed, but I am running Windows 10 with Windows 65 with an .NET 5 preview. And with the .NET 5 preview, there comes C#9 preview. So I'm going to activate the preview by using a CS proj switch called lang version, and I just do the preview from C#9. So I can use all the great things they discovered and made it into the alpha. Or so the thing is, like, this is really a lot of code. We're like thinking about namespaces and all this imports and with the public static main and blah, blah, blah. And we were like 9 layers. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers, 7, 8 layers deep in indentation. And I think that's way too much. So with the new features of C#9, we can just remove a lot of stuff. For example, this. And then we are going to have that, and we are going to have that, and we can delete those lines. And then it's shouting at us because we don't have a namespace, so we do a namespace. It's better if we do a using here. Sorry for this code. So it's like tasty demo. And now we are down to describing the calculator that should that thing, and we have a local function, and we iterate over all the stuff, and we return a weight, and we'll see what happens here. And we have the same thing. Nothing changes because the compiler did all the magic for us. But I don't like this data-driven thing in between here because it's adding noise. So I am putting it down. Because it's just a function. We can do whatever we want, but it's in one file, and now we have like 42 lines of code, and we have an iterative test that is like 100 of lines of code, something like this. So it's still outputting the same, doesn't change anything, but it's like reducing the noise of writing a test and getting stuff up and going and all that kind of stuff. So we even could make this even more dense, but I don't think we should do that because we only have 20 minutes left. There's one thing I want to shout out because we are in like a for each, and we are doing the calculator again and again and again. And we don't have to do that. We can just move that up in, for example, here. Because this tree is like executed all the way down, and this is guaranteed to happen before this. So this is all kind of I am going to set up and tear down this test. You don't have to know what the compiler does. It's exactly the same thing. This will be the same instance though. So that instance will always be the same. If I move that down, it will be for every test case a new instance. It's like a lifetime problem. You have to think about how things get instantiated. So, but you can see basically we are referring here to sut.add a, b, a, and b, and we're storing the result, and then we get the expected back. So we can just do a single return here. It's basically the same thing. It's just sut a plus a and b equals the expected. That's the same thing. And because we have the new hotness of C#, we can just do a lambda expression and get rid of all of that. So, and I like to wrap it this way. It's not that much shorter, but it is a little bit shorter. Well, it's the same thing. Is everybody with me so far?
I am.
But it's
So far, so good.
so it's a matter. It's a matter of choice. So, but the thing is, what is tasty about all the kind of crazy stuff with lambdas and then for eaches and data-driven? You can decide, and it's all the kind of, you can interact with the system, with the tests, and then blah, 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 and there's a run, and you can interact with all that stuff. But let's do something really, really, really crazy. You saw me adding this really, really boring console reporter. That's basically thumping out everything. That's great. But on the other hand, it's like really boring. So I can add another plugin because reporters are just plugins. So I can, for example, do some nice stuff and add an ironcad. So I will add an ironcad, and probably we should see from rainbow of joy. Yeah, but that was way too fast. So let's add some delay. So with the parameterized test, I will go back to this state, and I will say it's async. And now we just await task.delay for 20 milliseconds. And now we can see that our ironcad is really, really happy. And it's just a plugin that reports differently. And the way that works is all NuGet packages need to have some kind of mechanism to tell the tasty runtime there's something they can interact with. So let's really, really, really quick look into that. And I will fire up the developer command prompt from Visual Studio. And there's a tool called ILDAS. And I'm sure some of you are definitely aware of the tool. And I'm here, and then I am just doing ildasen.tastydemo. And it's a really, it is a quite an old tool. But what the NuGet packages does is like inject an attribute into it's like where it is, there it is, a tasty plugin attribute that says, hey, there's a type and there's a method you can use, and it's called use ironcad reporter. So it's all compile time based. So there's no reflection magic going at all. It's just you are deciding which bits and bytes go into your testing thing, and you can chain them up and link them together. And that's the reason why it's so fast. So there's no plugin or no discovery phase or testing phase or something like this. So that's exactly what happens if you do tasty exit. So it's so fast it can't even tell that it ran. So, and it did run. That's basically the thing. Okay, so And now there's the thing with XAF. So I have shown all the thing with low level and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. You can write your own reporters, and you can write and run Tasty wherever you want. And you can mix and match all of that shit. And I prepared a demo this time because it is a little bit trickier because there is no out-of-the-box support. But basically, all I've done is like there's a little small glitch in XAF. I had to go around. I need to talk to Dennis to get away from that. We have the same calculator. We have a controller with a simple action, and it let us run an action, and it doesn't do async. So nothing too special about it. And we have a Win controller that's basically opening a file dialog, show the file dialog, do the same read, describe all the kind of shit, run it, and then it has this kind of report function. And you can register your own reporter as many as you want, because it's basically a function that you can register within a scope or framework. And then you have to go for a little bit of magic to get the non-persistent thing going. So everything is async. So I have 10 minutes left, and I have 2 more awesome small demos. So it's a standard .NET Core file new project thingy. You can do that with .NET 4, 5, 6 as well, but for the demo gods, I just have to run tests. I use the same calculator add thing we did before. And now it's running inside of XAF. And if you don't believe me, sorry, no, Explorer. No, I can't code out. There's this thing. The first thing, 32, 0, 32. No, I don't think it's 82. I have no idea what happens if I do that again.
It blow up.
No, there it is. But it's now running crazy. wasn't supposed to run that twice. let's do that again, quick. Let's not battle test it. It's really alpha stuff. But I did some conditional appearance stuff and all the cool stuff. So let's run again. Calculate the add. There it is. And there's the failed test. And I really did the, and that's conditional appearance. So it's really cool. So it's basically the same thing. You can do that wherever you want. You can do that remotely. You can connect stuff together. But there's one last thing I need to show, and that's the CLI. And then I'm finished. So let's go back here, back to 32. And there's the thing that's called .NET Global Tools or .NET Local Tools. So we can run tasty tests in different contexts. I am just going to install a local tool, so I have to make a new tool manifest. So this will create a config file. So let's type .config .NET tools. It's basically empty, and now I can install the tasty tool. I really love that name. It's like tasty tool. It's like candy. And for now, I am just invoking a command that's called studio. There will be interactive and filter and all that kind of stuff. But basically, I'm in the directory where where a sysproj file lives, so I can just run Tasty Studio, and it's opening up a graphical thing of my runtime or my testing infrastructure. And there is my sysproj file, and I can open that. And it's building my project, and now it dies. Damn it! I think that's because Visual Studio is somehow blocking something. So let's try that again. Let's do a remove dir /s/q bin and obj. And let's do a studio again. And now build. And it fails again. Okay, sorry. Yeah, that's demo thing.
It's time to finish.
It's time to finish. It's like 8 minutes before 3 hours. So normally I can it lists commands. So you can define your commands and plugins and all kind of stuff, and you can plug into the Tasty runtime, and then you can interact with all the kind of stuff, and that you're not tied to. I think that I think that's where cause of Nyan. Nyan is bad. So let's do the console again. Give it one last try. No, it died. Okay, yeah. That's the thing. It was everything live. You can do everything I did on your own. There is a lot of documentation out there. Really, I all that kind of stuff. You can go with setup and teardown, and I didn't even show watch mode, exit codes, data-driven tests, organizing plugins, writing your own plugins. There is really a lot of stuff. The XAF one is new. I wrote that today. Let's go back to slides real quick. There is no assertion library. You can do whatever you want through exceptions. There's execution, snapshot, reporting. It will be sometimes in the future on a commercial license, but I have no idea when and how. There's a lot with diffing, image, Blazor, UI, XF, database, snapshots, and yeah. Stay sane and tasty.